down just a moment, okay?
GloRilla's back in jail, and something about this arrest feels real shady. But what's got everyone talking is her cell. It's insane. We're talking filthy, cramped, and straight up inhumane Dot fans are seriously concerned, and honestly, they've got every reason to be. Let me break it down. When the system played her dirty, the arrest that shook the culture. Yo, let me tell you about some real backwards that just went down in the hip-hop world. Picture this scene. You're one of the hottest rappers in the game right now. You just killed it performing at the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis, living your best life, securing the bag, and representing for all the real ones. But while you out there handling business and being a boss, some grimy burglars decide to run up in your crib back home. And somehow, get this, you end up being the one behind bars while these criminals are still running free in the streets. This ain't just some regular celebrity drama or social media beef we talking about. This is some real systematic bullshit that shows exactly how messed up priorities can get when the law gets involved. GloRilla voluntarily surrendered to the Forsyth County Jail on July 22nd, 2025. And let me tell you why that's the realest shit ever. Because she could have hired some expensive lawyers to handle this from a distance, but nah, she faced this head on like the soldier she is. Now, the Forsyth County Jail where they booked her, located at 202 Veterans Memorial Boulevard, Cumming, Georgia, 30040. This ain't no country club we talking about. This is a real county lockup where they processed her just like any other defendant, took her prints, snapped her mugshot, and threw her in a cell like she was some common street criminal instead of a victim of a crime. And once you're in, reality hits fast. The cells, cramped, cold, and lit with buzzing overhead fluorescents that never turn off. You're packed in a cinder block box with thin mattresses barely thick as a Bible page. No privacy, no comfort, no peace. The toilets, right there in the open, stainless steel, no seat, just humiliation. And depending on your luck, you're either bunked with someone detoxing from hard drugs or someone screaming all night about voices in their head, because the jail has zero real infrastructure for mental health treatment. Inmates have reported going days without proper hygiene products, sometimes forced to beg officers just to get toilet paper. Mold creeps along. The corners of the showers and the stench of sweat and institutional cleaner never leaves your nose. Food trays come cold, bland, and barely enough to keep your stomach from growling. Worse still, there's a reputation for abuse and neglect. A former deputy was even arrested for sexually assaulting an inmate, and whistleblowers have accused the leadership of turning a blind eye to misconduct. You're not just fighting the system here, you're fighting to keep your sanity. The streets went absolutely wild when this news broke because everybody could see how backwards this whole situation was. The victim sitting in a cell while the real criminal's still out there, probably laughing about the whole thing. GloRilla was released later that same day on a $22,260 bond, but the damage was already done. They had her walking through that system, fingerprinted her like a criminal, and had her sitting in a cell thinking about how f***ed up everything was. But yo, if the police thought GloRilla was gonna stay quiet and just take this disrespect, they got her completely f***ed up. This girl's response was straight fire, and she came with all the smoke for these backwards ass priorities. Her clapback was everything the culture needed to hear. Through social media, she said, "Long story short, my house gets home invaded and I'm the only one that gets arrested." She also clarified, 1, so no, I wasn't busted. 2, my house got robbed. 3, I wasn't home. Real talk, that hit different because she was spitting straight facts. She expressed exasperation that cannabis possession was the focus instead of solving the burglary, and every real in the hood could relate to that frustration. Like, y'all really gonna ignore some armed burglars to focus on some weed? That's the type of shit that got people heated. Her legal team wasn't playing either. GloRilla's legal team, and she publicly criticized law enforcement for prioritizing drug enforcement over investigating the violent home invasion or apprehending suspects. This wasn't just some celebrity tantrum. This was about calling out some real systematic problems with how law enforcement handles shit. Attorney Drew Finling described the case as a disturbing window into how warped law enforcement priorities have become, while reminding everyone that her family called the police in the burglary, yet no warrants have been issued for the suspects. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office tried to defend their bullshit with some weak-ass statement, but they just made themselves look even more stupid. Sheriff Ron Freeman issued a written statement saying,
"The homeowner is a victim of a serious crime, and we are committed to bringing the suspects to justice. At the same time, we must continue to uphold and enforce the law in all aspects of the case."
But check this out. They said they committed to bringing the suspects to justice, but were that same energy when it came to actually catching these burglars. They acknowledged she's a victim, but treated her like a perpetrator. That's some real contradictory bullshit right there. The hood's response to GloRilla's situation was immediate and overwhelming. Fans rallied behind her, seeing this arrest as emblematic of broader systemic issues in drug policing, especially in cases involving marginalized individuals. There's widespread sentiment that this reinforces distrust in law enforcement's handling of victimized communities. Social media went went absolutely crazy with support for GloRilla and straight up dragging law enforcement for their backwards priorities. People weren't just supporting her because she's famous, they were supporting her because they recognized some real injustice when they saw it. This case became the perfect example of everything that's wrong with how the system treats people from the culture. What made this shit even more infuriating was thinking about how other crimes get handled. When somebody's crib gets burglarized, usually the focus is on catching the burglars, getting back the stolen shit, and making sure the victims feel safe. But in this case, they flipped the script and made the victim the target, while the real criminals stayed free as birds. The controversy lies in how law enforcement handled the case, prioritizing drug enforcement over tracking down the burglars. This ain't just about GloRilla. This is about a system that seems more interested in prosecuting weed possession than solving violent crimes that actually hurt people. Her social media response was perfectly timed too. She posted on X, "Long story short, my house gets home invaded and I'm the only one that gets arrested. So that's T." That "so that's T" became a rallying cry for people who saw this situation as representing everything wrong with the justice system. The thing is, there is a partner. This is not the first time this is happening, and it may not be the last. The 2024 DUI arrest that had everyone talking. So check it. On April 16th, 2024, GloRilla got pulled over in Suwanee, Georgia after executing a U-turn at a solid red light around 4 a.m. Now, this wasn't no random traffic stop. This was at the intersection of Peachtree Industrial Boulevard and Suwanee Walk Avenue, and the officer immediately knew something was up. When the officer approached her vehicle, he noted bloodshot, watery eyes, the odor of alcohol, and a smell of marijuana emanating from the vehicle. But GloRilla's response to the questioning was something else entirely. The body cam footage from this stop became viral content because of how she handled the whole situation. Right from the jump, you could see GloRilla wasn't trying to cooperate with the typical DUI questioning. When the officer started asking about how many drinks she had, her Memphis attitude came out strong, and she wasn't trying to hear none of that. But then the officer detected something else that changed the whole dynamic of the stop. This is where the situation escalated from a simple traffic violation to something much more serious.
But not only can I smell alcohol coming from your breath, but I can also smell marijuana coming from this car.
Now here's where GloRilla mentioned something that definitely got the officer's attention. She had a firearm in the vehicle. The way she handled this part showed she was trying to be responsible about disclosing the weapon, even in her impaired state. But what happened next became the most talked about part of this whole encounter. GloRilla tried to use her celebrity status to potentially get out of the situation, and this is where you could see her frustration building as she realized the officer didn't recognize who she was. Then came the iconic moment that became a meme across every social media platform. The confidence in that "I'm on your TV" line was pure GloRilla. Even in a compromised situation, she maintained that Memphis swagger that made her famous in the first place. This moment became viral because it perfectly captured her personality, that unshakable confidence, even when things weren't going her way. But the officer wasn't having any of it, and what happened next was the field sobriety testing, where things got even more interesting. She underwent field sobriety tests and failed, and refused a breathalyzer test. But even after failing the tests, GloRilla continued to argue with the officer about the results. The way she handled being told she was getting arrested showed that Memphis fighting spirit that her fans love, but also demonstrated how she wasn't accepting what was happening.
Turn around for me.
What we doing?
Turn around for me.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take the tip. I'm gonna take the tip.
That doesn't change anything. You still are going to be arrested.
Even when facing arrest, GloRilla maintained her position that she had done everything correctly and passed all the tests. This showed her refusal to back down even when the evidence was stacked against her. During the vehicle search, authorities discovered marijuana and an open container of alcohol inside, which added additional charges to the DUI. She was ultimately charged with driving under the influence, DUI, possessing, consuming an open alcoholic beverage in a vehicle, and failure to obey a traffic control device. She was booked into the Gwinnett County Detention Center and was released later that morning on a $1,956 bond after being held from approximately 6:12 a.m. to 9:41 a.m. Now here's what's wild about comparing her 2024 DUI arrest to her 2025 burglary situation. The 2024 arrest was a case where she was actually present, allegedly breaking the law, and there was a legitimate public safety concern about impaired driving. The officer's response was professional, thorough, and focused on the actual violations that occurred. But in the 2025 case, she was the victim of a violent crime, wasn't even present when it happened, and yet faced more serious felony charges than the misdemeanor charges from the DUI case where she was actually the one allegedly breaking the law. That's some backward shit right there. GloRilla's arrest generated attention partly due to her public behavior during the stop and remarks to officers. When she asked if they knew who she was, the officer replied no. This became a viral moment that showed both her confidence and the officer's professionalism in not treating her differently because of her celebrity status. charges. Despite the arrest, she continued performing without cancellation, including a scheduled appearance at the Atrium Health Amphitheater in Macon later that week, showing her professionalism and commitment to her fans even during legal troubles. The body cam footage also captured some moments that became part of the viral nature of this arrest. At one point, her right breast became partially exposed during the encounter, which added another layer of controversy and discussion around the arrest, though most people focused on her attitude and responses rather than that incident. What's interesting about this 2024 arrest is how it shows GloRilla's personality under pressure. Even when she was clearly in the wrong, drinking and driving, having an open container, making an illegal U-turn, she maintained that confident, defiant attitude that's made her famous. That "I'm on your TV" moment became iconic because it perfectly captured who she is as a person. But the contrast between how she handled the 2024 arrest versus how she's handling the 2025 situation shows her growth and maturity as both an artist and a person. In 2024, she was arguing with the officer and trying to use her celebrity status to get out of consequences for her own actions. In 2025, she's using her platform to call out systematic injustices that affect her entire community. This progression shows that GloRilla has learned from her experiences and is now using her voice and platform for something bigger than just her own situations. The 2024 arrest was about personal responsibility and consequences. She was wrong, got caught, and had to face the music. The 2025 situation is about fighting for justice and calling out a system that has its priorities completely backwards. And that brings us to the bigger picture of what this case really represents and why it's got the culture talking about some much deeper issues than just one arrest. Some even speculate that she may be an industry plant, and the industry is now trying to get rid of her. Industry plant accusations and the real behind this situation. Now let's keep it all the way 100 about something that's been floating around in the culture for a minute. These industry plant accusations that keep getting thrown at successful female rappers, especially when they blow up fast. And yo, GloRilla's current legal situation has got people talking even more about how authentic artists get treated when they make it out the hood and start securing real bags. First off, let me break down what the fuck an industry plant even supposed to mean, because a lot of people be throwing this term around without really understanding it. The term is used to suggest an artist is presented as independent or grassroots, while actually being heavily backed by labels or insiders, implying manufactured success rather than organic growth. But here's the real tea. Many argue the term is vague and misused, particularly against female artists and black creatives. When it comes to GloRilla specifically, the streets have been pretty clear about where she stands. Most observers resist labeling her an industry plant, instead recognizing her as a marketable artist with genuine appeal who preserves her Memphis identity and distinct style. And there's good reason for that. Her story is too real, her come up too authentic, and her connection to the culture too deep for any of that manufactured bullshit. Let me paint you the real picture of GloRilla's rise, because this ain't no overnight success story or some label-constructed fairy tale. Born on July 28, 1999, in Fraser, one of the grittiest neighborhoods in North Memphis, Tennessee, she grew up in a strict Pentecostal household where her first musical exposure came from singing in her church choir. This is somebody who literally came from nothing and built an empire through pure talent, determination, and staying true to her roots. Originally, she wanted to be a singer, but after losing her voice around age 16, she switched to rapping. That's not some calculated career move, that's adapting to circumstances and finding another way to express her creativity. Real hood shit right there. Her breakthrough came with FNF, Let's Go, produced by Hit Kid in April 2022, which became an instant sensation that went viral organically on TikTok and YouTube, sparking the FNF challenge. This wasn't some heavily promoted label push single. This was a raw, authentic anthem that resonated with women everywhere who were fed up with toxic relationships and ready to celebrate their independence. The song racked up over 45 million YouTube views in under 3 months and peaked at #42 on the Billboard Hot 100. But more importantly, it became a cultural moment that spoke to people's real experiences. You can't manufacture that type of authentic connection to the streets and the culture. The success of FNF led to her signing with Yo Gotti's CMG, Collective Music Group label, under Interscope in July 2022. But that signing came after her organic success, not before. That's the opposite of how an industry plant situation would work. She proved herself first, then got the backing. And let's talk about that signing for a minute, because the way it went down was pure Memphis realness. The contract announcement came via a private jet deal reveal posted on social media, with GloRilla signing while holding stacks of cash, drinking champagne, symbolizing her rise from Memphis poverty to rap royalty. That wasn't no corporate boardroom bullshit. That was celebrating making it out the hood in the most authentic way possible. Her follow-up success proved she wasn't no one-hit wonder wonder either. Tomorrow, 2 Inches featuring Cardi B peaked at #9 on the Billboard Hot 100, her first top 10 hit, and she was nominated for Best Rap Performance at the 2023 Grammy Awards for FNF and won Best Breakthrough Artist at the 2023 BT Hip Hop Awards. Her debut studio album Glorious dropped in October 2024 and debuted in the top 10 of the Billboard 200, featuring collaborations with major artists like 21 Savage, Cardi B, and SZA. But even with all that success, she's maintained her Memphis identity and kept it real with her fan base. Now let's compare GloRilla's situation to some other female rappers who face these same type of accusations, because there's a pattern here that needs to be called out. Take Ice Spice, who scored rapid fame in 2021 to 22 with hits like Munch and Princess Diana, and got accused of being industry constructed due to her swift ascent and polished branding. Ice Spice responded by saying, "I just let people believe whatever they want. At first it bothered me, now I understand that comes with the lifestyle." Then you got Sexy Red, who rose quickly after viral songs and high-profile collaborations with critics like Lord Jamar, claiming she's put in the game to skew the mind of the masses. Sexy Red clapped back saying, "This is free. I'm not paying no promo. They know every time I get posted it's going to go up." And don't even get me started on Doechii, who signed to TDE and gained viral traction, but still got accused of being a label-manufactured act despite her obvious talent and long grind. Here's the real shit though. Across Reddit and online forums, many emphasize the term is applied disproportionately to female artists and often minimizes talent and effort. It's like every time a female rapper blows up, especially if she's young and black, people want to question her authenticity instead of celebrating her success. The hood has been pretty clear about GloRilla's authenticity though. Reddit users in Memphis-focused discussions noted how GloRilla initially presented a grittier Memphis persona, contrasting with peers, with one user saying, "GloRilla came in the game presenting how actual hood girls typically do. She ain't industry at all." Industry veterans have praised her authenticity too. Busta Rhymes remarked she is untainted by the industry and that her music feels real and unfiltered, speaking directly to communities that relate to her experiences. GloRilla herself has addressed controversies over her image and denied any label coercion, stating creative decisions, including sexual style, are always hers. That's the type of response you get from somebody who's really in control of their own career and image. Now here's where her current legal situation connects to all this industry plant discussion. The fact that she's being treated like a criminal when she's actually the victim of a crime shows how success can make you a target in ways that go beyond just music industry politics. When you come from the hood and make it big, suddenly everything you do gets scrutinized differently. Think about it. If GloRilla was really some manufactured industry creation, would she be dealing with this type of legal drama? Would she be getting her crib broken into and then arrested for it? Nah. If she was really being protected and manufactured by some powerful industry machine, this type of shit would get handled quietly behind the scenes. Instead, she's out here fighting the same battles that any successful person from the culture might face, dealing with criminals who target her because of her success, and dealing with a system that seems more interested in prosecuting her for marijuana possession than protecting her from violent crimes. The way she's handled this whole situation also shows her authenticity. Instead of hiding behind some expensive PR team or letting lawyers handle everything quietly, she's been speaking out directly to her fans and the culture, calling out the injustice and keeping it 100 about what's really happening. This current situation has actually reinforced why people in the culture respect GloRilla's authenticity. She's not acting like some untouchable celebrity who's above the regular struggles that people from her background face. She's dealing with the same type of systematic bullshit that affects regular people, and she's speaking out about it instead of trying to distance herself from those realities. The support she's gotten from the streets during this legal situation also shows how deep her connection to the culture really runs. People aren't just supporting her because she makes good music. They're supporting her because they recognize her as one of their own who's being done dirty by the system. At the end of the day, the industry plant accusations against GloRilla and other successful female rappers often miss the bigger picture. The real question isn't whether somebody got help from a label or had some industry backing. The real question is whether they stayed true to themselves and their community through the process. And based on how GloRilla has handled her success, how she's maintained her Memphis identity, and how she's responded to this current legal challenge, it's clear she's kept it 100 throughout her whole journey. That's not something you can manufacture or fake. That's just being real. The fact that she's still dealing with the same type of struggles and injustices that affect regular people from the hood, even after all her success, actually proves how authentic her connection to the culture really is. A real industry plant would be insulated from this type of situation. GloRilla is out here fighting the same fights as everybody else, and that's exactly what makes her story so real and so powerful. Her current legal battle isn't just about one arrest or one incident. It's become a symbol of how the system treats people who come from nothing and make something of themselves. The same qualities that helped her survive and thrive in Fraser, that authenticity, that refusal to be silenced, that loyalty to her community, are the same qualities that have her speaking out against this injustice instead of just taking it quietly. The timing of all this is particularly significant significant too. Just when GloRilla is at the peak of her career, with her album Glorious doing numbers and her influence in the culture growing stronger, she finds herself having to defend not just her legal rights, but her very identity as an authentic artist from the hood. This whole situation has actually exposed how the industry plant accusations often work as a way to discredit successful artists, especially women, when they should be celebrated for making it out of difficult circumstances. Instead of questioning whether GloRilla is real enough, people should be asking why a successful artist can get her home invaded and then end up facing more legal consequences than the criminals who violated her space. The culture has been watching how she handles this situation, and her response has only reinforced her authenticity. She's not trying to play victim or use her celebrity status to get special treatment. She's calling out systemic problems that affect way more people than just her. That's the type of leadership and realness that can't be manufactured by any label or industry machine. When you look at the whole picture, her Memphis roots, her organic rise through social media and viral success, her authentic connection to the streets, and now her willingness to fight this legal battle publicly, it becomes clear that GloRilla represents something much more powerful than just another successful rapper. She represents the possibility of staying true to yourself and your community even when the system tries to tear you down. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.